So just how much of a game changer is this little thing? Welcome to Lancaster Hi-Fi. I'm Stephen Lancaster, and I'm going to talk today about the Wiim Pro Plus and what you can do with it. I'd love to have to tell you that I got this for free and with the understanding that I would do a review of it. But no, I shelled out my hard-earned bucks for this one. Amazon Prime Day. So I got, how much was this? I don't know. Let's say around 200. It's the Plus version. So what is this thing? If you're unfamiliar, if you've been under a rock and you don't know about Wiim, they've been coming out with products like crazy the last couple of years. And this is their streamer DAC. That is to say, it's a streamer with a built-in DAC so that it has RCA analog line out. But it also has digital coax out. It also has SPDIF out, or I don't know, what do you call that? Toslink? You know, the optical SPDIF. But it's also got a couple of inputs. You can plug in a LAN cord. You can do digital in through the Toslink. And you can do analog in. So, conceivably, if you're satisfied with digital volume control, you could use this as a preamp and have a digital source, say your TV, an analog source, say a phono preamp, and of course the streamer source. I've been listening to this thing for a while now, since Prime Day, whenever that was. And you know what? It's pretty damn excellent. I mean, yeah, it sounds really good. Now, I've been doing my idiosyncratic sort of streaming, which means streaming literally from, you know, the server on the hard drive on the Raspberry Pi streamer upstairs. And so all the stuff I play is stuff that I digitized, you know, either from my own CDs or my own records. Still sounds really good. I should probably do a side-by-side comparison with my CD player. That is, play the CD on the CD player and play the files on the streamer. But just my impression is that, you know, maybe the DAC on there sounds better than my CD player. Which is hard. That's a hard one. Now, when I say just what sort of a game changer is this thing, I'm thinking in terms of, you know, this is a pretty cheap piece of gear. And, you know, of course you can get the more feature-rich pieces of Wiim stuff, the Wiim amp and the Wiim Ultra amp or whatever, and have everything all in that one package except for speakers. But I'm wondering what this can do with a variety of gears on some good speakers, particularly my JBLs there. And so I want to try this on some gear. Let's get into it. Well, we can get pretty deluxe, so why shouldn't we? We can plug it into this Phase Linear 2000 preamp and let that feed the Heathkit model AA40, which is a 40 watt per channel tube amplifier, and a damn good sounding one at that. Now I'm also figuring, given the volume control that we have on the Wiim, and even the volume control that I've got here on the Heathkit, that I can go straight into here. Like I said, to some extent, if you don't have all that many sources and you're cool with digital volume control, you know, you can use it as a preamp and go straight into this tube power amp. For something a little different, let's say you've got a nice vintage solid state receiver that you like. How's it pair with that? This is a Sansui 3000A. It's a very nice 45 watt per channel receiver, solid state from the late 60s. Let's give this one a try. How does it pair with that? And finally, can you just pick up a really cheap black plastic crap receiver and get really nice sound out of this, as long as you have really nice speakers? I think that's really worth trying. I don't necessarily expect this to sound as good as the Sansui or the Heathkit, but I don't know. We might be surprised. Might be kind of hard to tell the difference. Setup is not hard. You just download the Wiim Home app and follow the instructions, and it's not hard. If you've got a smartphone and you know how to use it, you can set this thing up. Now, I use it to play files served from my streamer/server upstairs. And the way that works is I actually use the same remote on my phone that I use for that. I just choose this as what I want to play to. It's almost a little disappointing that I don't get to use the Wiim Home app really at all. What else does it come with? Comes with the remote. I don't know how to set up the voice remote function. I think you need Alexa or something like that. Maybe I'm wrong about that and you can clue me in. I'm just a Luddite and I can't figure it out. Your basic power brick, you know, on the back here, it just gets power from a USB-C. It came with these pretty basic RCA cables. It also comes with a Toslink cable. I haven't used that. It's in the box. I don't have that out to show you because I don't need it right now. Let's get this thing going. Should be all set up already. I just unplugged it to bring it out here from my office where I usually use it. I hope it was okay to just yank the plug. Let me key up some music, and I'm going to have to do that with my phone, which I'm using as a camera. So first we've got the Super Deluxe. We've got the Heathkit AA40 through the Phase Linear 2000, and I've just got the Wiim hooked up to the tuner input on the preamp. So let's check it out. So now I'm bypassing the preamp and going straight to this power amp. And I'm just using the digital volume control on the Wiim. I opened with wondering how much of a game changer the Wiim is. And I mentioned, you know, you could probably use it as a preamp and even hook up a turntable. Well, I mentioned that you need a phono preamp. Well, here's a phono preamp. This is pretty cheap phono preamp, but not super cheap. It's a Riga Mini Phono. So what do we need to do? We gotta have some RCA in. So we take the RCA in from the turntable here. Ka-chunka chunka. Love this, hate this design. Has to go all the way back here. The ground lug is on the back. And let me grab some RCA cables to go from there to the back of the Wiim. These will do. And finally, I gotta hook up the power supply to the Riga. Alright, let's set this up here and put the power on. Now I'll need to use the Wiim Home app to select the different input. I had to go into the Wiim Home app settings and select the line in input there. There's also a setting where you can have it auto detect the line in. Not sure exactly how that works. Didn't want to try it just now for the first time, but does look like it's a bit maybe more user friendly than it was for me. And I think I can still control the volume with this. Now I'm sitting on your head like a monkey. Dang, that works really well. You know, I saw them once back in the early 90s, Orpheum in Boston. Neat. Yeah, kind of a game changer, huh? Get you a little phono preamp, any kind of power amp, including a pretty awesome Heath kit, and the Wiim Pro Plus. Dang, yeah. Alright, now we're going to do these. And I'm not going to tell you right now which one it's hooked up to. All right, our last run through. Well, this is where I've had it hooked up for the last while, and time to put it back now that I'm done with the demos out in the other room. All I got to do now is I've already got the cables here. These are hooked into the tuner input of this Fisher preamp, and hook up the power cord, and then I'm done. And that's all there is to it. I'm pretty sure the steady white light means that it's all hooked up to the Wi-Fi and everything. So now all I gotta do is turn on the amp and the preamp, switch over to tuner, and I'm good. And don't get confused between line in and line out. I need line out. And now, once it gets to solid white, we should be good to go. Well, there we go. I think this is a pretty awesome device. Let me speak a bit on the sound tests. I didn't notice a huge difference going from one device to the other. Not sure I really even noticed a difference going from one device to the other, simply given the time that it took to do the re-hookups and whatnot between tests. Given that the difference between the tests wasn't obvious, given that the differences among amplifiers are relatively small anyway, given that the differences among speakers are typically much greater, and the effects of speaker placement and room treatment or lack thereof and listener placement are so important to the sound, here's what I'm thinking. You get this thing, if you want to play records, you get a turntable. If you get a vintage turntable, you get a preamp like the Riga Phono Mini or something better. There you've got streamer and something you can play your records through, essentially using the Wiim Pro Plus as a preamp. Hell, and you can even go with your TV in to the Toslink. And then go to any power amp, whether that's a cheap receiver from the 90s or 2000s, or a Heathkit tube amp, or whatever. And you're balling, man. You've got your streaming, you've got your records. And just as a streamer, it's really nice. I'm not super tuned into the Wiim product line, but you know, there's just the Wiim Mini or something. Anyway, there's a Wiim that's just a streamer. You got to have a DAC, so it just has digital output. Then there's the Wiim Pro, and that has the built-in DAC and, of course, the analog output. And the Wiim Pro Plus, which is what I got, which has upgraded op amps on the analog output and upgraded DAC chipset. And then you get past that, and I'm not sure, but you got like the Wiim Amp and the Wiim Ultra. And I think it's the Wiim Ultra that John Darko reviewed real recently. But I'm thinking, you know, okay, yeah, the Wiim Ultra is nice, and the Wiim Amp might be nice. Although I've heard so-so things about the Wiim Amp. But, you know, you can get an amp pretty cheap. You can get a pretty good BPC era receiver for pretty cheap. I'm wanting $50 for that thing. I'm probably charging too much because I haven't had any bites. I'm probably going to have to come down to like $20 to offload that thing. And at this point, I'm like, is it even worth it to sell it? I guess I'd clear up some shelf space. You get that. You get the Wiim Pro Plus, which, you know, I think lists for like $250, but maybe you can get it for less than that. I definitely got it for less than that. I can't remember exactly how much. I want to say it was like $180. Get yourself a cheap amp, and then you're going to want some nice sound, so get yourself some kick-ass speakers, like those JBLs, or whatever you like. The paradigm for putting together a system is that you ought to be spending the major part of your money on the speakers. And I think that the Wiim Pro Plus is really revealing that importance by the fact that, you know, I can put it through a nice tube amp and a nice preamp, or just the tube amp. I can put it through a Sansui old solid state receiver. I can put it through a 1990s Pioneer receiver. And it sounds good in all of those with good speakers and a good source. So, spend as much as you want on the amp. Just to give you some ballparks, that tube amp is 40 watts per channel. That Sensui 3000A is 45 watts per channel. And that Pioneer is 70 watts per channel. So, you want more power? Pay a little more for something with more power. I think I sold a Yamaha that had over 100 watts per channel to some guy recently for, can't remember whether it was $100. I think it was less than $100. So if you're not into amps per se, but you really like music, get yourself a cheap amp just to get yourself going, man. And then, if you're feeling it after that and you want to get yourself a really nice amp, awesome, right? I really like nice amps. Of course, we need to compare CD player to streamer. I ripped Gaucho from this CD, and let's first hear it on the streamer, on the Wiim Pro Plus. Now, for the CD player.
Babylon sister, shake it. Babylon sister, shake it. My friend.
They're really comparable. I'm not really hearing, I don't know. I had an impression with the CD player that it was just a bit more crisp. But maybe that just means it's got a little bit more in the top high end or something like that. But yeah, they're really close. That cymbal wash coming out from under Shake It is pretty clear in both. The trumpet is really nuanced, and the mute work is pretty clear in both. The streamer's friggin' awesome. Because I think that's a pretty awesome CD player. It's not modern, but it's kind of interesting that sort of early 90s CD player, multi-bit DAC sounds pretty dang similar to the streamer DAC. Certainly a DAC has to do the digital conversion part, but a whole lot of the way a DAC sounds is in that output stage, in the analog signal path. I know that the Rotel has a really nice analog signal path, and evidently so does the Wiim. I know that's one of the things you pay for with the upgrade from, regular Wiim Pro to Wiim Pro Plus is not only the DAC chipset, but I'm pretty sure the op amps on the output in the analog stage. So, yeah, pretty awesome. Kind of amazing, because I've worked inside not that CD player, but one of exactly the same model. And I know how much space the components take up in there. And it's kind of amazing to me that they've managed to do such a nice job with the analog output on the Wiim Pro Plus in that small package. Because it takes up a significant amount of room in that CD player. Now, the CD player is from the 90s. So, miniaturization, blah, blah, blah. But still, I guess it is kind of a game changer. I think that's what it comes down to. This Wiim stuff is, not every piece appears to be super amazing. But at its price point, this stuff is really good. So is this thing a game changer? I think it is. I mean, I think the Wiim product line in general is kind of changing the game. They're coming out with these nice streamers with good DACs on them for pretty low prices. I think the Wiim products may be the best bargain in hi-fi right now. Now again, I paid my own money for this. I'd love for Wiim to start sending me products to review for free, but this is not that. I bought this. This is mine. I'm keeping it. Well, I'll wrap it up there. I hope you liked the video. Hope you got something out of it. Do the algorithm stuff. Most of all, I hope you tune in again. And if you do, I will talk to you later. Cheers.